Welcome to my PowerPoint presentation on why Hex, No One Escapes Death has unfair design in Dead by Daylight. Hex, No One Escapes Death, also referred to as its acronym NOED, ignites a dull totem once the exit gates are powered, assuming one is available. While the totem is lit, the killer is granted a small haste bonus and all survivors suffer from the exposed status. However, this status is concealed until a survivor is struck by a basic attack and therefore put into the dying state. Once the exposed status is revealed to survivors, the aura of the NOED totem is revealed in a small radius which expands over time. NOED has existed for the 9 years since Dead by Daylight launched and has been a controversial perk for just as long. It's seen a number of changes, beginning as a regular perk, no hex totem included. This version simply had no counter, and it was soon implemented to have a timer so as to give survivors a chance to wait out the perk. However, when totems were introduced into the game with the Hag, NOED was eventually turned into a hex perk that activated at endgame. That is how it remained until the 6.1.0 meta shakeup. A mechanic was implemented where the hex totem's aura was slowly revealed to survivors after NOED triggered. There were a few other changes like number tweaking, but the timer, the hex totem, and the reveal mechanic are the main points here. NOED was likely designed to intensify fear of the killer at endgame, wherein survivors needed to play extra carefully lest they were killed. However, this novelty quickly wore off and reality set in that NOED was the ultimate second chance perk. Despite its numerous changes, the perk remained controversial due to said changes addressing very little of what made the perk so frustrating to go against. The main focus of NOED, as the name suggests, is to help the killer lock down a kill at endgame. The troublesome part about the perk is the comparison of activation conditions to effects. Namely, NOED is entirely passive with very strong effects. While passive effects are not inherently poor design, NOED is noticeably different from its late game peers. Take for example, No Way Out. While it activates at endgame like NOED, it requires the killer to apply pressure during the match to increase its paltry 12-second starting duration up to its maximum 60-second duration. Additionally, No Way Out merely buys the killer time and does not give the killer any means to make use of said time. Alternatively, Terminus inflicts broken on survivors at endgame, but it does nothing to help the killer secure those injuries in the first place. By contrast, NOED requires no setup and provides effects that can quickly secure it down and protect a hook. Moreover, a few anti-tunnel survivor perks like Decisive Strike and Off the Record deactivate at endgame in order to prevent a free escape. While I think that's a fair point, I do find it a little hypocritical that this change was made while NOED continued to exist as a free kill perk. On top of NOED's flagrant design, the perk doesn't exactly lead to any satisfying outcomes. It is almost, if not certainly, the biggest crutch a killer can bring. If a killer is performing poorly, NOED gives them an opportunity for a last-minute kill, which feels unrewarding for the survivors who succeeded in evading the killer all match. This can also lead to a perpetual cycle due to Dead by Daylight's MMR system, wherein killers can be placed with survivors far above their skill level, get throttled all match, and then snowball at the last minute because of NOED. Because kill count is the main way MMR system calculates skill, NOED causes this to deviate greatly as an accurate measure. And for the killer player, it can feel extremely frustrating to feel outmatched all the time, increasing their attachment to NOED. Even in matches where the killer is performing competently, NOED either forces remaining survivors to cut their losses or can turn a healthy victory into a curb stomp. In either of these cases, it's still not a satisfying resolution. Beyond even that, NOED has a few other pain points. The way it is designed, survivors do not know they are exposed until someone is downed by a basic attack. Knowing this information would drastically change how safely survivors play, so as a result, withholding this information from survivors until it is too late is another layer of frustration. You may be inclined to just say cleanse totems, but I don't find that to be a compelling answer. NOED does have a preemptive counter wherein if there are no dull totems left, it has nowhere to go. However, NOED isn't common enough that doing so is justified in every match. This counterplay takes nearly a whole generator's worth of time to do, which makes it unsustainable in a match where a killer is able to maintain pressure. The longer survivors dilly-dally, the worse the outcomes become. This counterplay does also require a degree of game sense and knowledge to identify the killer's perks and playstyle to know if NOED may come into play. This also causes NOED to be a solo queue stomper since survivors cannot communicate which totems have been cleansed. Lastly, the aura reveal mechanic did nothing to solve the lose-lose situation for survivors that can happen if someone is hooked near the hex totem. There's just really no counterplay there, like at all. Can't go for the unhook, you're exposed. Can't cleanse the totem, you're exposed. Your options are leave or die with your teammate. My goal in reworking NOED is to address the frustrating elements of the perk that have garnered its reputation of an unfair perk. In order to resemble its late game peers, NOED now requires a little more effort to reap its benefits while reducing the aspects that put survivors at such a disadvantage. NOED is still a hex perk, but now has a token-based system. For each unique hook gained before endgame, NOED gains a token, up to 4 tokens. Once the last generator is repaired, NOED activates and lights a totem. Survivors immediately scream, revealing their location and are made aware that they are exposed. Once the killer downs a survivor regardless of whether it was a basic attack or special attack, NOED enters a 30-second timer, after which the perk deactivates. For each token, NOED's duration is increased by 15 seconds. I also opted to reduce the haste bonus down to 3% because I'm a hater. Take it up with my lawyer. These changes address several of the issues I spoke of earlier. The token system requires that the killer perform somewhat well before endgame, reducing the chances of an inexperienced player breaching ranks into somewhere they aren't equipped to handle. Additionally, this provides survivors an option to wait out NOED, minimizing the hook near the hex totem situation. However, it can still require survivors to find the totem and cleanse it, as they may not have the time to wait it out based on this design. By causing survivors to scream and become immediately exposed, survivors can tailor their playstyle with the knowledge that they are exposed, reducing how cheap the perk currently feels. And by revealing survivor locations, the killer can identify which survivor may be the most ideal one to go for, such as the one who may be nearest an exit gate or nearest to the hex totem. Overall, these changes retain the manic energy the perk was originally designed to have, but make NOED feel more appropriately balanced for its input to output ratio. Thanks for watching, leave a like, and put your thoughts in the comments below.